New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning again, dear ones. Reverend Briz with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit for Friday morning. Thanks for being with us here today. We've been having a great conversation in the back office, as it were, this morning. And we've decided we want to talk about sports. At least a little bit here today. And mostly because, when it comes to sports here in the Denver area, we don't know how to play baseball. That's been pretty obvious for a lot of years now.
Although we're getting better. Although we're on a streak. I mean, right now, I think the Rockies have won like 9 or 10 games in a row.
We'll see how they do by the All-Star break. And in football, we kind of, sometimes maybe hold our own. But in basketball and hockey, it seems we've been on a hot streak for a few years now. Good luck to the Avalanche tonight as they go to Game 7 with I forget who are they playing?
Dallas. They're playing Dallas.
That's right, the Dallas Stars. So going to Game 7 with Dallas, we'll see how that turns out. And the Nuggets have been just blasting it. Until last night. Yeah, but I think Jokic was just tired last night. He put on 3 amazing games before this. To lose one is to lose one, and
but the thing about this one though, they lost by 45 points. That's the second largest lose in a game of this magnitude. The last one was in 1956 when I think actually LA beat Atlanta by 56 points.
I wonder if they just saw. I wonder if they said, "Okay, screw it, we lost. Give it to them. Everybody, slow down. Save it for the next one. There's no way we're making a cut." I don't know, but it seems like we've got a couple of opportunities to go to the playoffs again this year, and especially with the Denver Nuggets. And I'm trying to remember. I forget who it was already that said that Jokic didn't deserve the MVP title. He was given the MVP title, and I forget who was it. It was Bart. It was somebody. Another old.
It don't matter. It don't matter. They lied.
He didn't deserve it, and I think Jokic just said, "Oh yeah, watch this." It has been
dude, man. That dude is phenomenal. They can say what they want. To do what he's done over the years, especially these last few years, consistently. I mean, there was a whole lot of controversy when they gave it last year, when they gave it to MB, the guy over in Philly. They were saying he should have won it then, but we'll see.
But the big news in sports has nothing to do with sports. It has nothing to do with whether you can play the game, if you're playing the game well, if you're working with your teammates well. It has nothing to do with the principles that make sports a decent thing. And that's the Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker. If you haven't heard, he made some, didn't make some statements. He gave a full-on speech.
And he's better known or often referred to as the butt kicker. And I'll continue just to set the stage.
Oh, okay. He's known as the butt kicker. Yeah, Butker. I get it. So he made some statements at Benedictine College's graduation. My understanding is some students did leave. Many were confused, questioning what happened. And he made a lot of derogatory statements that towards anybody that isn't, I would suggest, an evangelical Christian. He made jokes about the LGBTQ community. He attempted to parlay his teammates' fame and the fact that one of his teammates is dating Taylor Swift. Tried to parlay a cheap swipe at one of her lyrics. Tried to use that to justify this and that. And I haven't watched it. I understand it's racked up almost 500,000 views on YouTube if you want to go watch it. But here's what I saw that really kind of threw me for a loop. I saw a post and it said, "Everyone is taking what I said out of context. All I said is that we should go back to a better time, like the 50s and 60s, when men were women and women had, when men were men and women had more babies than thoughts. When the only, quote, Me Too movement was one woman saying she was ready for her fourth child and another woman agreeing. So if a woman has more than 4 or 5 thoughts, she's done."
Look, my first question would be, how did this dude get selected to be the commencement speaker first? That's the first question, right? And if you got an audience full of young ladies who are graduating from college with varying degrees, from education to economics to engineering, and you sit there and you say, "Oh yeah, that's all right, but you need to go and be a homemaker." I mean, how do they select these people to be the? Look, next, please call me. I can give a better commencement speech than that.
Exactly. In our business, we're both speakers as well as ministers, and in our business, I've always been taught rule number 1 is know your audience. I mean, you got a bunch of people who just paid a bunch of money to graduate from a college. They don't want to hear "stay home and pump out babies."
And now there's a little turmoil, right? They're asking for him to be let go. Now, he's been a very prolific kicker over the last 3 years. I mean, he's like second all time in the NFL in scoring, I think it was, or in career field goal percentage. I mean, so he's pretty good at what he does, it appears, in terms of football. He seems to be horrible at giving commencement speeches, and or at least unaware.
And he seems pretty horrible of a person, to be honest. To me, and in this speech, he says that it is his wife's greatest joy to be at home and play, to be home raising the family and the kid. And that's okay. That's, if that's your deal and that's what you want to do, that's fine. But let's not vilify everything you don't believe in. Because you love what you believe. And I mean, it wasn't only women in the workforce. He took swipes at priests, at the priesthood. He took swipes at LGBTQ community. He took swipes at a number of different things in this talk. And it sounds like probably going to go watch the speech just to confirm that he don't know how to give a speech. I got a feeling he just got up there and started rambling away and started talking about stuff and found himself saying things that maybe he, but then he doubled down on it all.
Yeah, I mean, he's made disparaging statements about everything. And it's, the dude is young. The dude is like 28 or something, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you don't know anything about the 50s and the 60s. So how you gonna say let's go back there? Right? That's the first thing.
You're right. Yes, you're right. Exactly. He has no clue what it was like in the 50s and the 60s. Go try and make a living as a kicker in the NFL in the 50s.
Yeah, you would not be making what you're making right now, buddy. I can guarantee you that. And and there'd be some people would probably get a couple of penalties for roughing the kicker if they if they caught you out there too with them kind of statements. But here's the challenge that we deal with right now. Popular culture. We talked about this the other day, you and I. This whole thing with popular culture has basically taken society as a sitcom, right? In my opinion. And it's about how many little quick laughs we can get, or how many little controversial statements, or little things that can turn into a meme. And the seriousness of life seems to be left somewhere way, way, way behind. And I don't know. There are real serious issues, conversations that need to be had, things that need to be reconciled, even things that need to be celebrated. That's better than having somebody come and make reference to a period of time where he wasn't even thought about.
Right.
I mean, if he's 28, I don't know how old his parents are, but
his mother's a doctor. Not like his mother stayed home and pumped out a lot of babies. I'm not sure if he has siblings or not. I didn't catch that in any of the stories. But his mother is a physician, from my understanding. So, his mother had a career. There is this belief system running around somewhere in the MAGA universe. I wouldn't be surprised to catch this guy wearing a MAGA hat sooner or later. There is this false belief that men are not men anymore, that we were better off in the 50s and the 60s, living under constant threat of nuclear annihilation. I don't know. Right. We were better off than today. And in some factors, maybe that is true. And in other factors, it's just an appearance. It's just a false belief. But
well, and the 50s and the 60s was a great time for who? It wasn't that great for African Americans.
Oh, it was, but it was really good for rich white guys.
So who is his real audience? So maybe he was speaking to his audience. Maybe he knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Well, then he should pay back. That he should pay back the college because he didn't give them what they paid for.
And just to show you how off base we have become, there was this debate on the floor with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think.
Yep, and AOC,
Ocasio-Cortez, and another young lady, forget her name right now, Miss Representative Crocker, I think it is, or Croker, I think. But I just saw it this morning. They were on the floor talking about fake eyelashes, and I mean, just striking things from the record. It's like,
Well, that's
We're in
that's
kindergarten.
That's Marjorie's playbook. When Marjorie doesn't know, I figured this part out. When Marjorie doesn't know what she's talking about, which is most of the time, when Marjorie doesn't know what she's talking about, she just turns to petty insults. And that's how this whole thing started on the floor. Oh, you and your fake eyelashes over there. It's like, girl, you don't know how to debate. You don't know how to have a
not the
conversation.
issues.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe she definitely don't know how to argue issues. I mean, the purpose of you being there is as you said, to, I look at a large section of life requires you to do some investigation, do some inquiry, ask questions, and then have a educational debate about the issues to try to come to a consensus or try to find more information and ideas and facts about a situation. Not to call names. I mean, in my neighborhood, we call that, well, not quite playing the dozens, because playing the dozens, I need to talk about your mom. But it's that kind of an atmosphere that we're having in the highest halls of government, and it's just like, are we in a comedy show or what the heck is going on?
Right. It is.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's quite frightening and quite sad that we have stooped. I mean, here's a young lady. She's 50, not even 50, right? She'll be 50 sometime this year. This month she'll be 50, I think it is. And you mean to tell me that's the best you can do in terms of representing your but here's I don't want to pick on Georgia, but here's another person from Georgia.
And I don't know that we want to say she's representing her people. I don't think she has ever truly wanted to represent the people of Georgia. I think she wants to represent the 1%. I think she's out for herself. She's out to represent herself. She's trying to get herself, I'll say it nicely, she's trying to get herself in bed with Donald Trump. She's trying to undermine the political process. And she duped the people of Georgia into giving her the job. I don't really believe that she has the best interest of the Georgia people, of the American people in heart, in what she said. I think she has her own best interest, period. And we've got to develop a way to keep these people out of power, out of the halls of justice, as it were, because every time we turn around, it's Marjorie's creating a stir for the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know.
I highly doubt her mind has ever been changed by a debate. She comes in the door. She knows how she's voting. She already has made up her mind, and she doesn't listen to her fellow lawmakers. She doesn't seem to respect them. Why would she listen to them?
Yeah, I mean, I am anticipating and quite afraid of this election cycle that's coming up. I really am, because they've had these laws in these places where they've redistricted a lot of areas in terms of who votes for what, and a lot of the redrawing of the lines has left out or made it almost impossible in certain places for the constituency of that area to get true representation.
Yes. Gerrymandering is out of control in this country. And I find it interesting that back in the 50s and the 60s, when people of your color couldn't buy a house. We called it redlining.
Yeah.
And now we do the same thing politically. And from my perspective, it's predominantly Republican driven. And so the redlining continues, but now in a new form. And instead of saying, oh, you people can't buy a house, they're saying, oh, well, guess what? We're just going to buy the house. We're just going to figure out a way to make it almost impossible for any liberal candidate to be heard by putting them in these crazy drawn districts. This has been a problem for a while, and now nobody gave two worries about it 10 years ago. It wasn't such a big deal 5 years ago. 5 years ago we were talking about it, but we haven't done anything about it in 5 years. And so the problem continues.
Right. I mean, and speaking of debates, the debate of Donald Trump and Joe Biden, current and former president, have already, the first one is set for July, I think 27th. And they put some, I know Joe has asked for, if you go off script, they turn your mic off. Or if you go beyond your time, they turn your mic off. Which is a great idea. Turn when the person is answering the question, turn their mic off. If you go over your time, we turn your mic off, and we turn the other person's mic on. I mean, if they're not going to be civil, because other than that, this is just a shouting match.
Right.
And so I'm hoping they have some better controls and ask the participants to stick to the points. Do not just start rambling and saying, oh, crazy Joe, he's an imbecile, or, Trump is a villain. I mean, there has to be some good rules, and there has to be a moderator or two that can manage this so that it's something other than a comedy show, in my mind.
Yep. Well, we know what's going to happen. Trump's going to get on his high horse and start attacking Joe personally. He's going to exaggerate the attack, and Joe's going to get flustered, and because Joe seems to, I mean, I'm not a huge Joe Biden fan. I'll say that. I've said that before. I think the Democrats are missing out here by not running some more popular and progressive candidates as well, and trying to rest on their laurels of Joe Biden. He's accomplished some great things. The Dow Jones hit 40, stock market hit 40,000 yesterday. But I think you said it best, comedy show. It'll be another sitcom of one guy throwing zingers and the other guy getting flustered and not knowing what to do with it, because it's not he's not used to that kind of off topic. Like, I'll be interested. Yeah. It'll be very, very interesting to see. June 21st, by the way, is the first one. June 21st.
June 21st?
June 21st, or sorry, June 27th.
And September, right?
September 10th.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I'm looking forward to those. We should have a party.
Yeah. Well, and I just heard that there's also been an agreement for Vice President Kamala Harris to debate whoever Trump elects as his vice president candidate. I don't think I forget the young lady who was prime candidate, and then she went and wrote the book about shooting a dog, and then that kind of messed her up.
No,
I forget her name.
Noam, something like
Yeah. She's in South Dakota. I forget her name. She's the governor of South Dakota. But this will be a very telling political election cycle in terms of the shape and the direction of the future of this country.
Yeah.
And I
No question.
think it behooves all of us to read up as much as we can, to understand the issues as much as we can, try to wade through all of the crap that's out there, and find 2 or 3, 4 good sources that have varying opinions so that you can get a full spectrum of not only what's on the table, but what's at stake in the future.
Right.
You know, I read something yesterday or this morning about, you know, the topic of Social Security has come up once again about going bankrupt and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, we just gave away $95 billion. And you telling me our system is about to break, but you can give away $95 billion? I understand what we did, but I also understand you telling me you have a group of people who put money into this economy that was not put money. You took money from people in this country because you cannot not get away from Social Security, and
Right.
now you're saying we're going to go broke on that system, but we can give away 95 billion. That's the priorities seem to be amiss to me.
You know, I think that's a great way to say it, actually. Our priorities seem to be amiss. Our priorities seem to be unaligned, or don't seem to be aligned with what we profess as American values.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the answer, Z, is how do we have a discussion around what America as a nation of people, what do we really value? How do you do a values clarification with 7 million people, or whatever the population of the United States is right now, right? How do we get to a sense of this is outside of our value system? Why are we giving money to things that we don't, when our values indicate we should be taking care of our own first? Maybe. I don't like that phrase. Excuse me for that, but
yeah. But yeah, it's a slippery slope, right? I mean, because okay, we understand, like if we just take the war in Russia and the Ukraine, all right, we understand that Putin is a dangerous kind of guy. He's a cagey kind of guy, right?
yep.
And you know, if he takes Ukraine, what's to stop him from taking something else, right? So we understand that, and okay, you know, we you know, it's like it's kind of like when hurricane season comes. You don't know if the hurricane's gonna hit you, but they tell you get your hurricane kit ready, right? Whether you need it or not. You don't want the hurricane to get there, and then you tell me, oh, let me get my kit. Too late, right? So I get that. That's the kind of a game we have to play, if you will, when we look at some of these kind of situations, right? But just get your kit ready, and then you know, and know when to pull it out. But to start undermining our own country on all of these different things, as opposed to trying to talk, have some debates, find some ways, and you know, obviously sometimes that can't happen, right? So then you have to deal with the storm, if you will. But we have to begin, I believe, to look at what was, what is, and what we aspire to be in terms of the values of this country, so that we can begin to try to implement them across the board for everybody, not just, you know, it's supposed to be of the people, for the people, by the people, but right now it's just a few people that must apply to, because everybody's not getting the same.
Right.
So, you know, and I know they just in terms of, now that we're on this little bent on disturbances in the world, the United States just finished the port or the pier over in Gaza to bring in humanitarian aid.
Yep.
And so now they're saying that may put our soldiers in harm's way now, because I'm assuming they're going to have military presence there to guard and protect and bring it in and distribute it. I guess I'm not sure what that plan is, but I know they've made the statement that our troops will be in harm's way.
Hey, let's get real on this one for a second. Our troops are always in harm's way. Isn't that the very nature of a troop?
Yeah,
yeah, you don't become a soldier to not be in harm's way. Even if you're sitting in the back row watching the computer screen and joysticking some drones across the sky, our troops are always in harm's way. If we're gonna support and help the people of Gaza by bringing in some humanitarian aid, by making it possible for more aid to reach the region, we can't stop on. That's like telling Jokic, you can't go play basketball tonight. You might stub your toe. You might twist your ankle while you're out there. Confounds me how the same people that are screaming for war get upset if a few of our people might get injured. Well, guess what, folks? You're the one that wants the war. I don't know. I do know that would piss me off.
Well, that scene over. I mean, I saw and I'm really trying to be very selective on my consumption of that type of
news. Yeah.
I want to be informed so I can make intelligent decisions. But some of the stuff, like I saw, they had some of the residents of Gaza were taking aid trucks and kidnapping them, if you will, and destroying all of the food and stuff in there, throwing the flour, war, whatever it was. And I'm like, really now? We've gotten to that point to where you don't even care about, okay, I get it. If you want to go after Hamas, I got it, right? But to go after Hamas at the expense of innocent women and children and elderly, with what seems to be no remorse, that gets to be pretty telling to me.
And then to claim that we're not committing genocide. Like Israel said yesterday, they're doing everything they can to not bomb women and children. We're not committing genocide. Sure as hell looks like it to me. Yeah. But hey, we got two other big stories I want to make sure we get to today, and they both involve the Supreme Court. One is incredibly disturbing. The other is just everyday business. So let's go with the everyday business first. Clarence Thomas is in the news again because his luxury $275,000 RV that he purchased back in 1999. Yeah, guess what? He didn't buy it. A rich guy did.
Bought it for him?
Bought it for him. Bought it for him. Got the loan. Now, here's the problem. And his name is Anthony Welters, by the way. He's a wealthy healthcare executive. Claims to be a personal friend of Thomas's and supposedly loaned Thomas the $267,000 for the purchase of the RV. But Thomas refuses to provide any proof that he ever paid back the loan, will not comment as to whether the loan was forgiven. Sounds to me like he got given an RV by a healthcare professional. So I think we need to go back and look at every decision he's made since that time in regards to healthcare, because it would appear that Thomas Alito has been bought and paid for. and he ain't paid the money back.
Wow.
However, the other big story, and the one that infuriates me, is that Anthony Scalia, or no, wait, let me make sure I get this right. We don't want to talk about the Justice Alito, excuse me, Samuel Alito. Turns out that shortly after the insurrection of January 6, 2021, his American flag at his home was flying upside down. Now, that normally signifies distress. The original flag, the laws of the flag say that a flag flown upside down indicates distress and that we need help. And a number of January 6th adherents took flying the flag at that time, were flying the flag upside down to stand in solidarity with Donald Trump's Stop the Steal movement, as it was called at the time. I don't know how more blatant it can be that when a Supreme Court justice is doing these kinds of things. But the problem I have is in this, and supposedly there's video of this. Supposedly neighbors have video and photos that people documented that this happened. But why are we only finding out about it now, Z? We live in a 24-hour news cycle. We live in a world where I know what Taylor Swift had for dinner last night if we really want to find out. Sorry, I feel like we're picking on Taylor today. Right, we could find out if we wanted, but it takes years before we find out that one of the supreme justices of our land, one of the people that is tasked with maintaining the laws and the Constitution of our land, it is blatantly throwing about their belief that a con artist tried to steal our election. Or I'm sorry, that a con artist tried, right? I'm speechless. Like America I was taught when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm a bit speechless when we begin to think about, again, it's just a hijack. Those people with power and money are hijacking our system. And it appears in a lot of ways the populace, are frustrated with all of the shenanigans. They feel that they don't have a say. They don't have the ability to right some of these sideways movements. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we have to become involved. We have to vote. We have to have discussions. We have to stop trying to make one-line zingers and really begin to look at what's going to make us sustainable as a country in an inhabitable place where I don't have to fear walking outside my door because I look different or I act different or I present myself different than the so-called mainstream. I mean, these are the types of things and ideas that subvert and undermine a whole nation, and there be it the whole globe. Right. Because these antics now are everywhere. You see the prime minister over in what was it in the Czech Republic or I forget the country. The prime minister was shot almost point blank range 5 times.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to look into that. I saw a headline scroll past at one point, but haven't had a chance to look into that. Yeah.
Pretty close to, and so, most those kinds of things traditionally, if you will, did not happen overseas.
Right.
But now that the mentality of the West, I'll just say it that way, of these kinds of mass shootings and things like that are beginning, and blazing assassination attempts are happening more and more in other parts of the world, which says to me, this ideology of, if I don't like what you say, I'm gonna just kill you, is beginning to get out of hand.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So what do we do?
Well, I know our time is short, but I would say, and that is for the program, not on the planet.
Yes. Okay.
To be clear, we have to begin, I believe, to get to the basic facts of life. Is humanity is prime. Life is prime. I mean, that's, why you're here. Now, in some other realms, different things may be prime. But right here, life is prime. And we have to begin to look at, how do we have discussions and implement policies and implement things that allow people to strive and thrive in succeeding in life, whatever that is that they want to do. As long as they're not out trying to hurt or kill somebody, you can have an opinion and a discussion about something that I don't like. But when it gets to the point to where I'm going to be punitive against some people or some things or some ideas because you don't agree with me, now we have a problem. So we got to move away from that kind of thinking and activities and begin to say, yes, we can disagree, but at the end of the day, what is best for humanity?
Yeah. I really still believe that when it comes right down to it, the majority of Americans will agree on a majority of points.
Mm-hmm.
There are some places where various belief systems just are not going to be able to come to an agreement. It would appear a woman's right to choose is one of those. It would appear, and I fully believe a workable solution can be found. The problem I see is we rarely talk to each other. And this dust up on the House floor of insults and arguments and chaos, as some have called it, is a reflection of that. That is the demonstration of the consciousness of Americans right now, that we don't want to talk to each other. And no, I mean, and I'm guilty of it too. I was in I was at an event recently, and somebody pretty blatantly, like somewhere in the early part of the evening, made it clear that I'm on the red road. Like, made it really clear they're a hardcore conservative MAGA Republican. They're on the red road, right? I guess that's some inside language in that community. I'm not 100%. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't want to get into it. I didn't want to take the time. I didn't want to open myself up to attack. I didn't want to try to learn what this person really believed or how we might work together to make this a better country. And that's my failing. And I will own that. And in the same breath, I'm going to say, and I need to stop that. I need to be able to get into conversations and be able to have thoughtful, peaceful conversations that aren't insulting somebody's eyelashes, that isn't insulting somebody's way of life, that isn't pretending we need to go back to some idyllic time in history when things weren't any better than they are now. Let's be real. As you said, right? They weren't any better for people with color in their skin, that's for sure. If you weren't as white as Snow White, if you weren't, Snow White, anyway, my mom's got a line for that. I used to be Snow White and then I drifted.
Well, and to do that is something that we try to advocate on this program. Is you have to be informed, to be able to talk about the issues, to be able to decide and help collectively come up with something that's more inclusive, that's better, that serves all these other points. You have to be involved. You have to be aware, which means you have to stay abreast and you have to take some kind of action.
Yes. All right. There's our final word. Stay informed. Take action. Vote. We got to go, folks. Time for more here on the New Thought Media Network. Thanks for being with us on a Friday morning. We'll be back again next week with more ministers talking shit. Until then, we want to wish you a peace and richest blessings. Thanks for being with us. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.